igniting, inspiring, and evoking the fire within.
Don't just think about making money, because it was never about just making money. It was about making a difference. It is nothing about wins or losses. It was about those three things. And if you do those three things, winning and losing is always going to take care of itself. Give me a reason in our way. Give me a reason why I should stay. Got to believe in when you feel this way. Give me a reason why I shouldn't stay, shouldn't stay.
You're listening to the What's Your Inspiration podcast with Fox Beyer.
Hello and welcome to episode 61 of the What's Your Inspiration podcast. Today, I promise, a longtime friend on. He's been a colleague and a friend for many, many years, going back to the year 2005. He is a colleague at Whippany Park High School, and again, a good friend who has been teaching and coaching high school sports for over 20 years. He is Brad Callahan. Brad, how are you today?
Well, after that introduction, I feel pretty good, Foxy. Feeling pretty good.
Do you feel regal?
When I'm around you, I always feel pretty good, bud. You've been a great friend. You're always someone I look up to and who's always been there for me. So nothing but love for you, buddy.
Appreciate it. I might be a half-inch taller than you. I'm not sure. You mentioned looking up to me, but I think only in stature. I think it goes the other way. You've certainly been a mentor for me and someone that I've wanted to have on here for quite some time, from a friend perspective and a teaching and coaching perspective as well. So you have a lot to offer our listeners today. What do you think?
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot, man. Hopefully we have a lot of people listening, Foxy.
We will. We'll get this out into the airwaves, and I think we're going to get a lot of bites. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but 1996, was that your first year at Whippany Park?
I was my first year coaching.
First year coaching.
Yeah, so I started teaching the fall of '98.
Okay,
but I was coaching the park swim team while I was going back to school at Montclair State. The hours actually were it was at Morristown Baird School, and the pool time was from 9 to 10 o'clock at night, right? So I took classes during the day, and I was able to coach the park swim team at night, and I was doing that. The first year was 1996, and it was pretty funny because I think about that now, and I used to visit after practice. I would drive to Whippany, that's where Joelle was, and I would go by our house at night. We'd watch like Seinfeld or whatever was on. And I wouldn't get home till like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And I think about that now. Dude, I'm in bed at like 9:15, 9:30, to think about how much your life can change. And as you get older, it's crazy. When I look back on the beginning of my career, and, I was coming from sales too. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So my whole story of how I became a teacher is it's a well-traveled road, and it's something I share with my students every year. I like them to hear this story because if you don't mind me talking, I'll
hit us with it. Yes.
It's it's one of those things where kids, especially my sophomore group, where they need to start thinking about, they feel the pressure of college, and even the seniors about what they want to major in and stuff like that. And I have to be honest, when I was that age, I had no clue. I was just going through kind of the motions, and I did enjoy art. So I was actually an art major at Rowan when I went there, and I wanted to try graphic design. So in order to do that, you had to take all these fine art classes. So I was swimming for Rowan at the time too. So I was like the only athlete in all the classes, and swimming took up a lot of time. And here I am taking all these fine art classes, drawing 1 and 2 and painting 1 and 2. And it was my drawing 2 class where my professor came up to me and I'm sketching, these models would come in. You think about they hire these people and that's legit. Like these people would model for us. And I'm charcoaling on a thing and my teacher came up to me and she's like, Bradley. She always called me Bradley for some reason. And I'd always be like, it's Brad. Bradley, you have a decision to make, art or athletics. And I sat there and I'm like sketching this thing out and I'm like, you know what, she's right. And I just remember dropping my charcoal and then I just left. But even then, I switched over to communication liberal arts because I liked some of the mass media classes that I took. And I graduated with a degree in communication liberal arts and a minor in ad design, right? So what do you do with that, obviously? So I ended up in the sales for a printing company called Curtis 1000, which was a top 20 printing company in the United States. And I had a territory near Rutgers, Central Jersey. So I was living with my buddies in Indian Lake on this lake house, and I would drive down, do cold calling, and try to talk to the person in charge of purchasing, right? And that's your ticket in. And then you sit across from these people. And I was sitting there, and this happened, multiple times, because I guess they saw this new person right out of college, this young guy, and these people would open up to me. Even back then I had this gift. People talked, they always talked to me. And they would say the same thing all the time. Like, I wish I did, something different. I'm stuck in this job. And then I got married. I have kids. I have all this responsibility now. I would do things so differently. And, this was going on multiple times as I talked to these people. And I'm like, geez, I need to really think about what's going on here, because I wasn't sure if I think I'd be all right in sales, but I didn't think I would be like, this is what you want to do for 30 years, dude, because no one really explains that to you.
No.
This is what I tell my students. When you start working, it's the longest phase of your life, right? So if you don't enjoy doing what you do, you're going to be miserable for a long phase of your life. And no one ever really told me that back. It's certainly not in high school. I had to figure this out on my own. So anyway, I went home that day, one of those days after hearing this pep talk about how these people would do things differently. And I wrote down, I made a list of things that I enjoyed growing up as a kid. And a lot of it revolved around working with kids, whether it was coaching or, working at camps and stuff. And then I thought about fields, certain fields that I can do. And certainly phys ed was one of them. So literally, during my sales job, I'm visiting the campuses of Kane and Willie P, Montclair State, talking to the people in charge of phys ed departments, what it would take for me to go back to be a teacher. I didn't have to take a lot of education courses, so it'd be 2.5 years, 2 years of the classes, and then that half year of student teaching. And I remember calling up my parents and saying, I'm going to swing by for dinner. I got some news for you, And I swing by, and my mom was a teacher for 30 years in Parsippany. I always thought I should have been a teacher. And we're eating dinner, and I said, I'm going back to school to be a phys ed teacher. And the first thing that my dad says was, why the hell did I just spend all that money at 4.5 years for you to be at Rowan? And my mom gets up, of course, she's excited. She gives me a hug. And as they say, the rest is history. I had to move back home, live back in my house, leave my friends, and start this whole new career. And I was commuting every day down Route 80 to 46. And every day I said, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. And while I was taking these classes, I was a 25-year-old hanging out with 18-year-olds that didn't know what they were doing. I was highly motivated. It was the first time in my life I really knew what I wanted to do. And that's when I started coaching, so I was coaching actually football in Parsippany and subbing in Parsippany, which is where I went to school, Par Hills. And that's where I was coaching football. And then I was the head swim team coach for Park Swimming and subbing in that district and hoping eventually that there was going to be an opening in one of those once I was done. I ended up doing my student teaching at Whitney Park. And lo and behold, there was a a teacher, a travel position when I first started. The guy was leaving, and I walked into that position, man, and it was just the best feeling in the world, But it was the first time in my life, Fox, where I was motivated as a student. I got a 3.5 GPA, because I was always labeled average growing up, and I believed it. I just accepted it.
Yeah, label, right?
Looking back on things, the person I am now would have said, "Nah, I'm better than that." But that person back in the day was just. That's why when I say I was going through the motions in life, that's what I was doing. Because I didn't know any better. So that's my teaching story, dude.
That's the kind of stuff that you can't find on Google, right?
That's right.
So you work for a printing company, but it seemed to be more than that. It was like a mirror, right? These people are talking to you about, man, I wish I chose a different path, and that was like them telling you, there's a fork in the road. You need to take this route, which you did. And then you end up coaching at 2 different schools, right?
Yep.
And then
playing the game,
playing the game, and sticking to where you are now. And you've been there, if we're counting, this would be 24 years at Whippany Park High School.
Correct.
Unbelievable.
And it goes by quick, man. And it's hard to believe, but I enjoy going to work. And like, that's the old saying, right? If you love what you do, then you don't work a day in your life, dude. And I honestly, Fox, and I think you would agree with me. That's how I feel, man. And, I enjoy hanging out with my colleagues, the kids. Like 24 years has just flown by for me.
If anybody watches what Brad does every day, I mean, I pull in and your truck's backed in, right, to your spot. You walk in and you're setting something up in the gym. He's the one that always makes me laugh when I walk into the gym. That's one of the reasons why I park where I park, so I can walk in the gym. And the first thing I do every day is laugh. Literally, I will stand in the gym, you all, until Brad does something to make me laugh. Whether it's dancing to the song that's playing, or makes some kind of comment about what I'm wearing. It doesn't matter, and it's been that way since I've been there since 2005. I tell my students, look for a job you'd want if you didn't need a job, and you are the personification of that. There's no question. Yeah,
I get a lot of good feedback from my students, especially when they're seniors, and they'll say they remember that speech that I told them, and when they're talking about majors and stuff, and I said, find something that you can see yourself doing, that you're passionate for. Don't just think about making money, because it was never about just making money. It was about making a difference in kids' lives. That's what really drove me. And I'll tell you what, when we went through the pandemic and that school shut down in March, and we weren't in school the rest of the year, and I sat home, locked down, and I did a lot of self-reflecting, and I did a lot of self-reflecting on life, and I really missed teaching, man. I missed my colleagues, and I missed my students every day, and I realized just how much I loved my job, And that last summer going into this year, is when, and you can attest to this, is I wrote down all those ideas about what I can do, because I knew there was going to be some remoteness to this.
100%.
And I said, what can I do to make this the best situation for my students? And I made it a goal to be there for them no matter what, remote or in school, and get to know my kids. And just because I missed it so much, that interaction. That really what drives me is just that relationship that you build with your kids.
Yeah, it's not just a job for you. You're in with both feet. It is a lifestyle.
Yes,
it's a lifestyle, and it's reflected in the way that you connect with your students. And just to brag on you a little bit, the 2021 Whippany Park High School Teacher of the Year, Brad Callahan, and it was well earned and well deserved, just because of the way that you approach your job and how you're in with both feet. kudos to you. Kudos to you. And the other thing about Brad, we're not going to. This is audio only. He's the Benjamin Button case. Take very good care of yourself. You seem to get younger every year.
I love when you say that.
It's just ridiculous. I walk in every day and you'll make me laugh, and then I look at you and I kind of say something under my breath. And I look at myself and then I look at you and I think, geez, Fox, you might want to make a little investment that he's making. Maybe you want to do that. But yes, if anybody, you'll see in the photo the boyish look of Mr. Brad Callahan. Brad, you've past 20 years, you've coached a ton of sports, and I'm going to name them, and I'm probably going to miss one, but let's go down the line. We've got track, we've got football, we've got swimming, we've got field hockey, we've got softball. What else?
Soccer.
You did soccer. I did not know that.
I did freshman soccer for 1 year with Coach Wilson.
Sorry about
it. And DeVico was the JV boys soccer coach at the time, and they needed a freshman coach. And I did it for 1 year. And don't forget winter track too. I was head winter track coach.
Yeah, I mean, when I say track,
people always say that.
Yeah,
they always group it.
Sorry, I'm a
novice
at that. So both winter and spring track. So a plethora of delight in terms of coaching positions at Whippany Park, both as a head and assistant. You've enjoyed great success, all right, as assistant and head, due to your impact on your athletes as people. To me, your players, in my view, are selfless, they're competitive, and often they seem to play in the absence of anxiety. Everyone has a philosophy. What is your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And here's the funny part, Fox. I was 27 when I started teaching, which means I was like 26 when I started coaching. And right off the bat, I knew I needed a philosophy, and I got one, and I've used it in every sport I've coached, and I've shared it with a couple other coaches along the way, because
including me.
Yeah, it's a 3-step thing, right? So number one, when it comes to Coach Cal's teams, is coming together as a family, because if we don't do that right off the bat, if you don't gel and become tight with your teammates, nothing else really matters after that point, because nothing's going to really ever be special if you don't get that bond that you're looking for. So that was always number one on my list of what to do with my philosophy of coaching. So it was become together as a family. Number two was come to practice with a sense of purpose every day, right? So don't go through the motions. It's one of the things you'll hear me talk about, whether it's through the motions of life but every day take advantage of practice. How are you going to get better every day, right? And it could be just being a leader that day. It could be being there for a person who's not having a good practice. It could be, this is the aspect of that I'm working on specifically in my sport. There can be so many different things about how you can get better every day and take advantage of that time frame you have, because nothing bothers me more as a coach than kids taking things for granted. And has this pandemic taught us anything? It's how things can be taken away in a heartbeat, right? Certainly injuries can be taken away in a heartbeat. So if this is why I say that, if that does happen, at least you went out knowing, right, that you did everything you possibly could to be the best that you possibly can, and then the third, which is always, and me being around me, is have fun, right? So there's your 3 steps of my coaching philosophy that I've incorporated in any sport, whether it was football, swimming, track. That has been my 1, 2, 3 step philosophy, and it's worked. And I look back on it now and I'm thinking, that was pretty good to think of when I was just starting out, without much experience.
And it's stuck. It's stuck. It's your anchor. And if we had any advice, the advice that I have as a coach is have a system and have a philosophy and adhere to 2, 3, or 4 things. And you nailed it. I had it. You sent it to me a couple of years ago, and I had it written down right here, and you just rattled it off. Right,
and I need to end it by saying, when you do steps 1, 2, and 3, the winning and losing will always take care of itself. You know what I mean? So you notice right off the bat is nothing about wins or losses. It was about those 3 things. And if you do those 3 things, winning and losing is always going to take care of itself, you know, because you're going to run into coaches that are all about, some coaches are all about winning, dude, and at all costs. But that's not how you build a program, and that's not how you get the best out of your kids, you know.
Who are your biggest influences as a coach?
You know, it's funny because that's a really good question, because I've had my share of some good coaches and some ones that I felt like didn't get the best out of me. But I think the first experience I had with a positive coach was growing up. I grew up in Parsippany at this little pool called Glacier Hills. It's a small community, and everything was about this pool in the summertime. So that's where I learned to swim, you know, because that's what everyone did in the summer. Everyone hung out at the pool, and that's where you made your friends. And so we had this one coach, her name was Kathy Smith. And I learned at a young age just how much I wanted to please this coach and swim well and practice, because she was just this positive person in my life that just got the best out of me, even at a young age. Like, I realized that, and coaches are pretty powerful, you know, and she, with my self-esteem, you know, like I was wasn't so sure about myself swimming wise, and she just brought the best out of me. And it was my first time really like connecting with a coach, you know, and being like, that's cool, man. Like, I want that kind of relationship, you know, with that when I get older with athletes, that feel good vibe that you can get when you're doing things the right way.
And in my view, that's how your athletes look at you. So the table, years later, the table has turned. I think Coach Smith would be proud.
She, it's funny, we keep in touch on Facebook, and
oh, cool.
Yeah, all along, she's always said that she thought I'd do something special, that I was a special person, which makes you feel awesome, because I was, like I said, I was like probably 10 when I first met her. And she was there through the coaches of the years and the teams of the years, and then the teacher of the year this year. And she'd always, you know, we'd always end up talking a little bit back and forth, and be like, I miss you, because she's way out in like Midwest Michigan. I haven't seen her in a long time, probably about 25 years, you know? But I always remember her. You know? I always remember her.
Super cool. Super cool. Let's switch gears a little bit to the classroom. To the classroom. All right. Fill in this sentence, Brad. The classroom is what?
For me, my classroom is always about a safe environment. You know, it always will be. And again, it's because of negative experiences when I was younger with certain teachers, you know. The worst case for me was second grade. I had a teacher who embarrassed and would embarrass you if you didn't answer the question right. So I remember going to the doctors with my mom because I wasn't eating a lot. And I passed like pretty much everything. And I remember the doctor telling my mom to leave the room. See, my mom taught in school. So it was just a difficult situation now that I look back on it, for her to be in also. And the doctor, I remember, talked to me about how school was going and how much I didn't like it. And turns out it was, you know, because of this teacher, dude. And the worst thing that she taught me, which I think led to me taking so long to be a teacher, was I was very quiet after that. I didn't talk much in class because I was afraid to. So I never asked questions. And I was like that all the way through high school, even into college. I just, it left a scar on me. You know? So when I went back to be a teacher, I really kind of had to face my fears of being vocal, you know, to overcome that part of it. And sometimes you got to do that, dude, to get to where you want to be in life. You know, you can't be in your comfort zones, right? And
There's
that,
no
for me,
growth in the
that
comfort
was a
zone,
big
as they
challenge.
say.
Yeah, that was a big challenge for me.
Man, what do
So
you?
I always said the point being is that if I ever did become a teacher, because I had a really bad teacher at Rowan too, who would tell you this history teacher, I hated going to this class because you had to read, and then and which I did. I read all the assignments, and then he would walk up and down the class and call you out and embarrass you if you didn't know it. But the pressure of the anxiety of getting called on was too much for me, and I struggled. And I always remember saying, man, if I ever become a teacher, I just want my kids to be comfortable and feel safe in my class. Like sometimes it's just that simple because of what I went through and how it changed me versus the teachers who brought out the best in me. So, and then, what was it about them? Well, it was the welcoming feel of that class. I never felt the anxiety or the pressure of being in that classroom. So I kind of that's the vibe I like to bring with each of my classes.
You can learn a lot from people, even if it's what not to do, right?
Yes.
Straight up.
Exactly.
Let's go to 1998, your first year teaching. What advice would you give your former self?
Oh, wow. I would say this would probably be the best advice I'd give myself back then. Don't be afraid of technology.
Ha
Because it's coming, baby. It's coming, and it's still coming, and it's one thing that some of my GCal or Mr. Feeney would be the first ones to tell you. I always go to them with my technology issues because I'm just, I'm better at it, but I'm not great at it. So.
You're a digital migrant, as you would say. As a cat walks across the camera.
Like I told you, what did I tell you earlier? The only thing that would come down and bother me positively is a cat, and she's right on cue.
It's like a Zoom aquarium here. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, digital migrant. Hey, I mean, at first, I think I was like that, but like you, I've embraced it. Hey, it's time for a game we call What, Which, and Where on the podcast. So I, knowing you for 15, 17 years now, I know a bit of your likes, dislikes, and your influences. I'm going to read a line from a song or from somebody that I think might have had an impact on you from near or far, and you tell us from where it came. Are you ready?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Here, in the first one, in What, Which, and Where. You never let down. You say you do it for fun. Never miss a play, though you make quite a few. You give it all away. ... It's from a song, early '80s. In the video, the lead singer is wearing very high white, like knee socks. And if I give you the next line, it's the title of the song. So
I was thinking you were going to do a Bruce thing right off the bat. So I was.
Brad's a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. So if he's included in anything here, you're just going to nail it. So big ups to the boss on the podcast here. Okay, yeah. I don't want to miss out on that, but it's not Bruce here. I'm going to read it again. You never let down. You say you do it for fun. Never miss a play, though you make quite a few. You give it all away. ... Everybody.
Man, I don't know.
Everybody wants you.
Oh, Billy Squier, that's your boy, dude. I should have known.
Well, you're a PE student of the month. And when you do, we come over the intercom. You always play a song, and you played this song. Everybody Wants You once, and I lost it first period. My students got nothing out of the class that day because I was just so wired over the song.
I should have known that you were the only person who ever recommended Squier, and I like Squier.
You're a 70s and 80s kid. Talk to us about your
Billy
first
Squire, man.
your first encounter with any kind of with Billy Squire's catalog. You recall?
Billy Squire for me brings me back to middle school wrestling.
Oh,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was
another sport.
Yeah, it was like one of the songs that was playing when you're running out in the mats. That and like Foreigner.
Oh
They were
man,
big. They were big back then too. When I was in middle school wrestling. Yeah,
feels
that
like
was
the first
Squire.
time.
Yeah, that was Squire. Yep.
Billy Squire. All right, let's go to the next one on what, which, and where. Okay, Rebel's been rebel since I don't know when. All she wants to do is blank, blank, blank.
All she wants to do is dance.
You bet. From the what's the band?
All she wants to do. I don't know. I might not know that. That's an '80s one, dude.
Well, yeah, it is. So, man, I'm saying Eagles, but I hear more Don Henley in that. But it is from the Eagles. All she wants to do is dance. I think it's Don Henley.
I was gonna say. I think it's Don Henley. I
It's
don't
just,
think.
it just straight up Don Henley from his solo project post
Yeah.
Eagles during the respite between after they broke up and came back in '94. All right. Let's go to your sports influences and what, which, and where. This is a quote from somebody you hold near and dear to your heart. There are only two places in this league: first place and no place.
That's a great quote.
It is. Hall of Famer. Mets Hall of Famer.
That's a Mets, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Mets Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Is that Tom Seaver?
Indeed. Pitches at the University of Southern California and principally for the Mets in the big leagues. Rest in peace, Tom Seaver.
Yeah.
So, growing up, did you ever see him pitch in person?
I did not. Actually, the funny part is when I was young, I was actually a Yankees fan. So I was like the Reggie Jacksons and the Greg Nettles and the Lou Pinellas and the Willie Randolphs. I had all their cards. And when I went into freshman year of high school, '86, people said I looked like Gary Carter
Yes.
with the curly hair and stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, and I was like, yeah, I never really thought about that, and then I became a Mets fan ever since '86, man.
That makes total sense. I mean, he's nicknamed the Kid, right? Because that's just kind of how he played, and that's kind of just how you look. You defy time. You are the Kid.
Gary Carter. And the funny part is my friends growing up, they called me Bratty Kid,
Okay. Bratty Kid.
Yeah.
Bratty Kid.
That's old school. If you hear someone call me that, that's old school Glacier Hills right there.
Old school Glacier Hills, New Year of Outlaw, 1986. Another cool nickname from Gary Carter. He loved the camera. So Tim Raines, Andre Dawson would call him Lights. He loved the camera. I love that nickname. Lights.
Lights.
Oh, good stuff. Awesome. Good stuff. Hey, bottom half, last couple questions. Thinking about your career as a teacher and a coach, do you have a fail forward moment? Something that may have happened to you as a teacher that you thought that would set you back, but looking back, it was one of the best things that ever happened to you. A fail forward moment.
Absolutely. And I don't want to get into names because I'm not about that. But when I first started teaching, I was a traveler, so I only taught one class at Whippany, and I was HP the rest of the day. I did not get along well with the football coach down there at the time. And it was my first year teaching. He was my mentor. And things weren't good. I was doubting whether I wanted to continue coaching football. Just wasn't having fun with it. Because, my philosophy, like that you should enjoy parts of it. It was too much of a pressure and a job. And I was thinking about not doing it. And he caught wind of it, and he actually embarrassed me in front of a class when I traveled back down there. It wasn't good, and it just was. I was like kicked out of his office. I sat in this empty room by myself the rest of the school year. And a lot of things run through your mind, as a new teacher. Last day of school, I get called down to superintendent. He tells me, we're moving you up to Whippany. We're bringing down someone else to coach football here. And that was ultimately what led me to where I am now, so it was at the time one of the worst things I went through, but what a positive it turned out to be, so I just went to Whippy and I just did what I did, and the rest is history. But
anchor down for the last 24 years.
Yeah, had things changed, I would be at HP still. Like, how weird's that? I mean, I might not even know you so well.
Which might be a good thing. I don't know. I'm not sure. Anchor down, head again. You can learn from people, even if it's what not to do.
Yes. That was a negative. That was definitely a negative. And I remember saying to myself, even back then, I was pretty strong. That was a strong Brad back then. The one that was highly motivated and knew what he wanted to do. So even getting pounded like that, I was just like, you know what? This was probably going to be the worst year I ever have in my teaching career. So what, you know what I mean? Like, everything else is going to be great after this. That was my mentality, right? Which I have to pat myself on the back in the day. That was pretty good. So I just went up to Whippany and forgot about it.
And there you've stayed for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Hey, we know all heroes don't wear a cape, but if you had the opportunity to take a 1-hour car ride with one of the following 3 people, who would it be and why? Right? We're gonna leave Bruce out of this, because if I mention his name, you're gonna ride with him. Okay?
I would probably choose him. But go ahead.
Question. But again, if you had the opportunity to take a 1-hour car ride with one of the following 3 people, who would it be and why? Would it be Barry Gibb? Would it be Bill Parcells? Or would it be Daryl Strawberry?
Ooh, interesting. I'd have to say Bill Parcells.
Why so?
For a couple of reasons. Number one, I would talk to him about Mike Murphy, my man Murph, Parcells was the one who found Murph in Manasquan and asked him to be his personal bodyguard.
Did not know that.
I would talk about that whole aspect, but then just how my dad, growing up, had season tickets to the Giants, and how I was there to watch, those teams, win playoff games, and just the whole bond of being a Giants fan at that time, and the tailgates, and looking back at it now, how special those times were, and just let him know, as from a kid growing up watching his teams, how much I appreciate that now more so than I did at that time, and he should know that. So that's kind of how my conversation would go.
Awesome stuff. Last question. What advice do you have for those who feel like they have hit rock bottom?
Well, sometimes you need to hit rock bottom in order to move up, in life. And there are numerous times in my life, and I shared a couple of them with you today, where I felt like I was, rock bottom. And then the good news about being in rock bottom, there's only one way to go up, one way to go, and it's up, dude. So sometimes you're better off hitting it once in a while, because not only will you overcome, but you'll look back on and appreciate more of what you have, So like rock bottom for a lot of us was the pandemic, right? Can we say that? During lockdown? I mean, that was bad, dude.
Yes.
And there's so many of my students this year who, through our journals that we did, weekly journals, that would say that they wouldn't exchange going through what they did because they came out a better person, and that's the way you got to look at it.
100%. And I think if listeners listen back, they'll understand. They'll get some advice on what you learn when you're at rock bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Brad, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for being on.
Hey, I got something special for you, buddy.
Oh, wow.
I was thinking about sharing one of my original songs with you, if you don't mind.
Oh, we've got a performance. I had I had asked earlier in a text for the listeners, and in the text, Brad seemed very, very cold to it. So I didn't push, but he's pulled out his axe right here, and we didn't really reflect on this too much. And my early years at Whippany Park as a teacher, I knew that Brad had a lot of musical talent, and I saw him perform at an event that we used to have called Coffee House.
Yeah, good
I
old
was
coffee.
really impressed. So I'm going to leave Brad to it. He's pulled out his guitar, his axe, and he's going to introduce what he's going to do.
Well, of course, there's a story behind everything. So there's certainly a story behind me, my music, and getting a guitar. So when I came back from college, I was living home, and I had a girlfriend that was still back in college, and it was very hard trying to move on in life and try to find a job and getting over this relationship, because she is back in college having fun still, and I'm home by myself, and it was hard to get over this particular female. And it was one of those things every night. She was the last thing you thought about. You wake up, she's the first thing you thought about. And I struggled for a while with it. And I remember one day just waking up and I was just tired of feeling that way. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go out and buy a guitar today, and I'm going to start teaching myself some chords. So I did. And this is back in 1995. And I bought a chord book. This is before YouTube could teach you all this stuff. This is old school, just sitting in your room by yourself and strumming away on this thing, trying to learn chord changes. And I'm writing down what I've been feeling with stuff. And it really became like a therapy for me, more so than anything, which was one of the reasons why my music was so personal to me. I wasn't necessarily ready to share it with the world, but somewhere in between those chords and the lyrics, I found myself, and it was weird. So I did write some of these songs. I think this is a 1996 song, dude. It's called "Give Me a Reason," and it's about the things I write about were relationships. I was pretty good at relationship songs because of what I went through. So this one's about liking someone who's in a different relationship with someone else, and you know that they like you back, but are they willing to risk everything? So it's called "Give Me a Reason." Can you hear it decent?
Yes.
All right. Know you see him, it's what you tell everyone. Know you're with him, and you're having fun. Please don't tell me, I don't want to know. I'm only human, I can tell the show. Know you feel me when he's lying here. Know you see me when your eyes are clear. Will you leave him, or are you just too scared? But all you're thinking when you sit and stare. Give me a reason, and I won't wait. Give me a reason why I shouldn't stay. Got to believe in when you feel this way. Give me a reason why I shouldn't stay. Can't you see me when you know it's right. Can't you please me? Hanging out all night. You just tease me. Calling out tonight. You just tease me. 'Cause I'm alone tonight. Alone tonight. Give me a reason. If I walk away. Give me a reason why I shouldn't stay. Got to believe it when you feel this way. Just give me a reason why I shouldn't stay. Shouldn't stay. There you go, Foxy.
That's Give Me a Reason, Brad Callahan from 1996. Brad, that's a perfect cap to this interview, this chat, this podcast. Thank you for your wisdom, perspective, and your talents.
Foxy, I appreciate everything, man. It's been great hanging out with you, and I appreciate the platform, man. Hopefully some people get something out of it.
Surely they will. And there's just too much here for them not to.
Thanks, buddy.
You got it. That will wrap up episode 61 of the What's Your Inspiration podcast. Brad and I will talk at you all later. Take good care.
You have been listening to the What's Your Inspiration podcast with Fox Beyer. Because impact on each other is the greatest currency you could ever have.